Well, that was certainly something. I'll be getting into the issues that plagued Luis Castillo and what I would say was his worst start in a Mariners uniform to date, and more coming up here on the Locked On Mariners postgame show. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors, and welcome to the Locked On Mariners postgame show. I am your host, Titan Gonzalez. It's Tuesday, May 16th, 2023. Thank you so much for joining me this evening, taking time out of your night to come chat Mariners with me. Wish we were speaking under better circumstances because, unfortunately, the Mariners lost by a score of 9-4 tonight to the Boston Red Sox at Fenway Park. Red Sox take Game 2 of the series, and the rubber match will be tomorrow at 4:10 p.m. Pacific. You can catch that game on the Mariners' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM via the SXM app. Rough night for Luis Castillo, and that's honestly putting it lightly, because to me, this was Castillo's worst start in a Mariners uniform to date. We'll get into the reasons why. We'll also talk a little bit about this offense, which was, aside from a 4-run inning midway through this game, pretty pathetic against a struggling Nick Pivetta and a bad Red Sox bullpen. This is going to be a pretty quick show because this is not a fun game to talk about, really. I do have a few notes that I want to go over, but after that, we're going to ball this game up and throw it in the trash. How does that sound? Sounds pretty good to me. Before we do that, though, this episode of the Locked On Mariners postgame show is brought to you by Game Time. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. And with killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. So forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. So snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. So, late last week, we spent a good chunk of the show diving into the weeds of Luis Castillo's recent struggles over his last 4 starts heading into this game. We talked about how the barrel rate has gone up significantly from where it was through the first 4 starts of his season. We also talked about how he just wasn't throwing as many quality strikes as he was through the first 4 starts of the season when he was just absolutely magnificent. And both of those things unfortunately showed up in a pretty big way tonight at Fenway Park. The final line for Castillo tonight: 5 innings pitched, 6 strikeouts, 2 walks, 5 earned runs, 7 runs allowed in total on 6 hits. The big number here, though, 3 home runs, which matches his season total heading into this game. And the other big number, 11 hard hit balls by this Red Sox lineup, which was really aggressive tonight. 7 lefties in the lineup, and they executed their game plan against Castillo to perfection and were able to take advantage of what was, to me, the worst command we've seen out of Castillo since he came over in that trade with the Reds last July. Just terrible command, no way around it. Just 13 of a possible 24 first pitch strikes, but more importantly, the fact that he was just not just catching some of the plate, all of the plate, consistently. And the Red Sox took full advantage of that. They did a ton of damage against Castillo. They ate every single cookie that he gave them, it seemed. And this game, couldn't have gotten off to a worse start, right? You have the error by Colton Wong, which I know everyone wants to point the finger at Wong for a lot of the issues tonight, and I get it because he's an easy target right now. But this game ultimately falls on the shoulders of Castillo just being flat out bad. He was really bad tonight because after that error, he just wasn't able to settle in. He goes middle fastball to Masataka Yoshida for that RBI triple in the second at bat of this game. Then middle fastball again to Justin Turner for the 2-run home run over the Green Monster. Then a couple of batters later, he hangs a slider in the middle of the plate for Tristan Casas, who deposits that over the right field wall to make it 4-0. Now, he was able to settle in innings 2 through 4. That was great. That's where most of his 6 strikeouts came from. It seemed like, hey, the damage had already been done, but it's Fenway Park. You should still have a chance to be able to get back into this game. Maybe you can salvage at least a decent start out of this. He didn't give up a hit during that stretch, but then, unfortunately, once we got to the 5th inning, he reverted back to the woes that plagued him in the first inning. middle fastball to Alex Verdugo for a leadoff double. Then middle inside third of the plate sinker to Yoshida for a ground rule double, and then hangs a slider to Jarren Duran for the third home run of this game, and that's your ball game right there, really. What's interesting about Castillo is that, like George Kirby last night, his velocity ticked up on pretty much all of his pitches except for the slider. He saw a 1.5 mile per hour increase on his fastball average. He saw nearly a full mile per hour increase in his changeup. And by the way, he used his changeup a hell of a lot more than we've really seen him since he's come over to Seattle. He threw that pitch 27 times tonight. We also saw a 1.4 mile per hour increase in his sinker velocity. So he was feeling good tonight. Just the command was terrible. Absolutely terrible. And he wasn't lucky enough to survive that. The Red Sox were all over it. Again, they were incredibly aggressive, and they rewarded for that aggressiveness as well. So just wasn't Castillo's night, and that put the Mariners in a pretty substantial hole, even though that they were able to knot things up at 4 apiece in the, what was it? I believe the 4th inning, maybe the 5th inning. I believe it was the 4th inning. It was the 4th inning, yeah. Castillo immediately, after a clean bottom of the 4th, came out in the 5th and gave the lead right back to the Red Sox with that rough 5th inning. And that was his night. And that's the story, ultimately. Like, again, I know that I talked about how bad this offense was tonight, but the reason that you lost really is because Castillo was as bad as he was. You're not going to win many games when your starting pitcher, let alone the ace of your rotation, throws the way that Castillo did tonight. So it's just the way it goes. It's a bit concerning when you pair this with how his last 4 starts had gone, but Castillo is also notorious for having a month like this. This is kind of the reason why a lot of folks don't label him as an ace, because this has been a running theme for Castillo where he just has a really bad month. This predates his time in Seattle, obviously, to his days in Cincinnati. So hopefully that's just kind of what we're experiencing right now and what we're enduring, and hopefully there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but this was bad. No way around it. This offense was also pretty bad tonight, again, and Colton Wong was pretty bad tonight. He did get a double. That's just his second hit since the wrist injury that he suffered against the Astros a week ago, however long it's been. But obviously had the really bad error to start this game, and then lost the ball in the lights or had miscommunication with Teoscar Hernandez in the 7th inning, which allowed a runner to get on and moved a runner up to second, which eventually scored to add some insurance for the Red Sox. Not like this Mariners offense was going to score any runs really anyway. Their at-bats look pretty pitiful ever since that 4-run inning that they had. But on the second defensive miscue from Wong, that might actually be, like, in all fairness, and again, I know it's really easy to point the finger at Colton Wong right now, and I get it. He's been really bad. He's been really rough to watch. But in all fairness, I kind of feel like that might have been on Teo, because that ball landed like 10 feet behind Colton, and Colton's backpedaling. Teo is running forward. He has the momentum. He has probably the best track to go catch that ball. So I'm not quick to point the finger at Wong on that front, but still just a bad play overall. It doesn't really matter whose fault it was at the end of the day. Bad play, and kind of exemplifies just the issues that plagued the Mariners all night long. Just a microcosm of the struggles tonight that this team endured. Again, offensively, not a good night. You're going up against Nick Pivetta, who's been statistically one of the worst starting pitchers in baseball to start the season. They got nothing off of him through the first 3 innings of this game. We're able to erupt for 4 runs in the 4th, but that was it. Couldn't take advantage. They had a chance to take a lead at one point. Couldn't capitalize on that. Julio generated an out. Jared Kelenic struck out with a runner on third. They couldn't get that run in. The one positive note here, Teoscar Hernandez continues to hit. He had an RBI triple that got past a diving Jarren Duran in center field. That scored 2. So his red hot road trip, I think that's what we can actually call it at this point, because he's been really good. He's 4 for 8 in this series. Not sure exactly what he is for the whole road trip, but he's been pretty damn good on this road trip, and so that's a huge plus here. That's a silver lining ultimately here for the Mariners. But the rest of this offense, terrible. Taylor Trammell at least had a game tying 2-run home run. That's cool to see. He has 4 hits since being activated. 3 of them are home runs. His other plate appearances haven't looked particularly great. But yeah. Look, that's as much as I want to focus on this offense and in this game, really. The other thing that I just want to touch upon real quick, I don't blame Scott Servais for doing this. It sucks. They use Paul Sewald with the Red Sox up by 3, which is not really a situation that you want to put Paul Sewald in or waste Paul Sewald on, but he hadn't pitched for 6 days, so you kind of needed to use him. But he ends up throwing 27 pitches, gives up a run. That stings, because now you likely don't have him available for tomorrow's game, which is a pretty big game. All right, my camera disconnected, so weird jump cut for those of you watching on YouTube, but I was about to wrap up anyway. So with that, thank you so much for tuning in to the Locked On Mariners postgame show. Really appreciate you checking in here, even after a brutal Mariners loss. Let's do it again tomorrow. We're going to be doing another Locked On Mariners postgame show. Hopefully, Colby will be able to join us for that one, and hopefully Mariners will actually be able to win that game and give us something to be happy about. But for now, thank you so much for tuning in. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day. See you tomorrow. Peace.